Hey, everybody. Welcome to another week of my Jobstickers Job Seeker Resource Group. This is the Facebook edition every Tuesday at 2, so thank you for joining. And if you're not live, not a problem. We can always, we always broadcast this on YouTube afterwards. So thank you for joining. And again, I'm still working out some of the kinks with the Facebook, so I know I've seen it get cut off at the end. Not my intention. I'm not sure if there's a lag or whatnot, but in any case, I'll deal with that. But just so you know, I usually do end these without being cut out. It's just I am still learning the Facebook group live room. So today we're going to talk about salary negotiations. Salary negotiations are imperative because not only do you want to get paid the most you can get for what value you offer to the hiring manager, but every single promotion that's tied with a salary increase the rest of your tenure at that company is based off this one initial number, right? So like $40,000 initial salary. 5 years from now, let's say you're up to $65,000. That's great. But if you would have negotiated and got maybe say 45,000 initially, well, now you're almost at 70 grand probably, so just mathematics. I mean, if there's a certain increase at your company, sometimes it's performance based, sometimes it's just a general increase every year, as long as you're meeting your, all your project goals. But, everybody's structured differently, but just figure out, go on a salary.com, go on a glassdoor.com. I love those two websites for looking up salary information and figure out your range. The negotiation, when I was a recruiter and I used to have to place folks at companies like, let's say GM, I would place either permanent hires that we would try to get in the door as cheap as we could, just because the hiring managers at GM would say, here's what we're paying. And if you can get lower, good. And so that was our goal, is who can we get for the right fit for the job? But a fair price, but still someone that fit into their range. And, it has to do with pay scales, pay grades, pay ranges, all these things HR talks about. But essentially, it's just keeping an even field. You don't want to come into a job, you're the fourth engineer, and the other three people have been there for 20 years, and all of a sudden you're coming in making more than they did or do. That can create some toxicity within the work environment. So, it's up to them to figure out what are some ranges that we can offer. And your goal is to figure out that range that they're willing to offer and be on the high end of that. Because once the recruiter locks you in at a range or even a number, usually is what they're going to hold on to the whole hiring process. So if you come in saying I can make between 40 and 50 grand, I'm fine with, they're probably going to write down 40 grand because they know that's your low end. So make sure you have your absolute, what we call walk away value, before you cannot take the role. And so I would have that final walk away value number in your mind and then shoot for a few thousand above that, or even 5,000 above that. So if your walk away number is 40 grand, maybe you tell them, hey, I want to take between 45 and 50 grand. Maybe that'll settle you in. All they can do is just say it's a little bit out of our range, and then maybe you can recalibrate that range and tell them, okay, well, I would be comfortable for a few grand less. That's fine, but I still really want to understand the role and what it's going to entail working in the environment, and working for my manager, what kind of projects and what kind of activities am I going to be doing. So give yourself an understanding of the role. Give yourself an understanding of the pricing of that type of role within that type of market, geographically, industry-wise, all of that. And it's easy if you just go on salary or in salary.com or Glassdoor. They have, it's like clickable filters all over, so you can really hammer down what you can find as a good range. Now, the reasons you negotiate: education, experience, and skills are worth more than they offer. The pay range for the position is less than the industry average and within that geographical location. So, you can monitor what they're going to pay versus what the industry wants to pay. Cost of living might be higher at a new location, or the salary offered does not coincide with that new place you're going to be working in. And then maybe you receive multiple job offers. You are working that angle. And that was where I was fortunate enough when I was working for Johnson Controls. I had literally got 2 gigs put in front of me one at BP in Long Beach, one at Johnson Controls in Whittier. And I mean, it was embarrassment of riches because I had been looking for a role for about 6 months up until that point, only because I was, leaving from Ohio, and I was specifically looking in Los Angeles for a role. And luckily, it just kind of timing wise worked out for me to be able to have 2 salaries to negotiate against. And I managed to squeak out about an extra $6,000 and a whole relocation package from Ohio to LA. So I was lucky enough to be able to work those 2 offers against each other. Obviously, it can rock the boat some with the company you decide not to work with. I know with BP, I was lucky enough to be able to still maintain relations with some of the folks that were involved in that process at the level I was at. And so, no harm, no foul. They get it. This is how things work. But don't be surprised if some companies do get rubbed the wrong way. So know that you might be burning a bridge if this is the route you go by pitting 2 salaries against each other. It just depends on the person who was vetting you initially and the hiring manager that was considering you initially. Considerations. Now, if you get this salary range, obviously gives you more flexibility during negotiations. But so again, you want to aim high. But to determine that range, also know what's the scarcity of required job skills and the experience in the job market. What's lacking? What do you bring? Are you able to kind of show them proof that, hey, here are some things I did that were a bottom line impact that I think would warrant me into this higher bucket of pay. Your career trajectory and experience up until that point, that's something you can provide them. I mean, they're already going to know with your resume, but reiterating some of these wins that relate directly to this role that hey, you coming in, you're going to save them a lot of money or reduce a lot of waste or ensure more throughput or streamline more efficiency than that they've been lacking or whatever. So, and also fair market value for the job, the level of the job within the organization, and then again, the salary ranges of the jobs within the geographic spot, the organization itself, the industry, economic conditions within the job market in that industry, and then just company-specific factors. What are comparable jobs, comparable cultures, pay philosophies, promotion practices? Are they good at succession planning and getting you on this fast track? I know I just read an article about Salesforce and how they have these 5 pillars of recruiting that they stick to for when they're staffing everybody. So essentially, it's really a great company to get into because they worry more about internal promotions rather than bringing in people from the outside constantly. They have a track in place so you can progress within that company almost hand in hand with your hiring managers, with your managers. So keep it in mind, the company, some of them are different when it comes to succession planning, and you want to find the ones that are going to give you a shot so you don't hit a ceiling, get bored, or, worse off, start creating a toxic environment because, bad management or what have you, some poorly run operations, various factors can play into that situation. But again, the research, I give you some of those links. Increasing your perceived worth. So you can gain a powerful spot at the negotiation table if you can present yourself in a positive manner as the must-have candidate. They're more interested in this long-term asset, not just the right person for the job, but they want you to be there for a while. That's the goal. As we talked about in other webinars, hiring is expensive. So they don't have the wherewithal to do all the vetting, sourcing, checking, interviewing, more checking, negotiation, hiring, training, and so on. That's a lot. And so they want you to be the right person. Every time you get invited to an interview, that's the goal for them, is to vet you to the point where they hope that you were the right one. So making sure everything's flawless with your resume, with your interview responses, with the way you dress and present yourself, speaking confidently when you're talking about your accomplishments, expressing your goals, showing you can fit within their culture, within their world, their brand, showing them that you're an advocate, just making it known that you really want this to be a part of your 40, 50 hours a week life, because you are sacrificing so much to get to that company already, including personal time with your family and friends and hobby time that kind of, your personal growth and whatever other spiritual growth or what have you, things in your life that aren't going to have time to get to as much because you're going to be stuck at this job and you don't want to feel stuck. You want this role to be something you're excited to get up and go to work every day. And that's the key. So make that known during an interview and on your resume and things, that you're the right person, you have the value, you're better than they realize it. And speak in terms of the whole company instead of, I can provide good customer service. You say, I can retain value customers and stimulate business activity. You know, get this where they see this person's thinking about the bottom line. I like that. I'm a hiring manager. I'm worried if you're going to cost me money or make me money. And it sounds like to me you're worried about making the money. So I like that. And then validate your skills while you're negotiating the offer. Validate, circle back and re-engage them on some of the things you had mentioned during the interview that resonated, or during a negotiation that might have resonated with them. Convince them you have more to offer for the position in the organization, in establishing your skills and experience, understanding of their needs that make you the qualified candidate. Therefore, give me more money. I appreciate your guys' time for stopping by. I have a lot more to talk about with negotiations. I'm going to do that on a different call. I'm going to go into specific responses, and even some templates maybe for written form negotiations. So there are a lot of things that can go into negotiations. And it's funny because a lot of my clients, they come and they see the resume is the first thing, the LinkedIn, right? And then when they get to the interview going, then they worry about the interview and training, but fail at the salary negotiation. And the salary negotiation, like I said, so important, because whatever number you start off with, your career trajectory at that company, your succession might be 20 years. That number dictates all those thousands that could have been made and earned had you start off at a higher number. So play the game right. And I hope this won't cut me off, because I'm gonna sign off and say farewell. See you tomorrow, 2 o'clock, for my LinkedIn event. You can tag me or poke at me with a message and let me know if you need the link. But I hope you all have a good rest of your Tuesday, and thanks for joining me on the Jobsticker's Job Seeker Resource Show.